Hi, I'm Tova with Professor Pincushion, and in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a customized dog coat for your favorite pooch. Dogs come in many different shapes and sizes, but that doesn't mean he can't have a perfectly fitting coat. I'll show you what measurements you need to take in order to create your own easy pattern. After the pattern is completed, we'll tackle the assembly and your dog will be able to show off his new fashion in no time. With your sewing skills, you can warm your dog's heart and his body with soft, cozy fleece. Let's go ahead and get started. Here are some of the supplies I'm going to be using for creating my pattern. I have my pattern paper, I have some tape just to tape it down, some scissors to cut out my pattern, a flexible tape measure to take your measurements, and we have this handy chart to keep you organized on taking the measurements of your dog. You can download this off our site. I also have a straight ruler, a French curve ruler, which is kind of optional. You don't really need it. You can just wing it without it, but I like using it. And then also you're going to need a pencil. I'm going to go ahead and mark my pattern in a pen so it's easier for you to see. Here are the supplies I'm going to be using for the assembly of the dog coat. I have my sewing machine, straight pins, all-purpose thread, fabric scissors, extra wide double folded bias tape. You need 1 to 2 packages depending on how big your dog coat is. You need a fabric marker, some hook and loop fastener, about 1/4 yard, and then you need some fleece for the main part of the dog coat. Now the amount depends on how big your pattern is, so you might want to finish it before you purchase your fabric. Use your flexible tape measure to take the measurements of your dog, and these are the measurements that I recommend you taking. So first one, we have neck circumference. So you're taking your tape measure all the way around the dog's neck, and you're doing this at the base of the neck. Next we have back length, from the base of the neck straight across the back of the dog to the base of the tail. Chest circumference is just like neck circumference, but in this case you're going all the way around the fullest part of the dog's chest. Chest depth is this little measurement right here. Basically, it's just determining how wide you want the straps to go along the front of the dog's body. So you're measuring from the base of the neck down to where you want the end of the strap to be. Side depth, you're measuring from the center of the dog's back along the side and stopping where you want the edge of the coat to fall on the dog's side. And lastly, we have neck to strap edge. So this one's a little bit tricky. It's this little brown measurement right here. So you're going to imagine that you want to take a measurement from the base of the neck to just past the dog's front leg here. You can see we have a dashed line, so you can just see an imaginary line going straight up to the dog's back from the back of the leg, and you just want to take from here to here. Now this is just telling us where we want the strap that's going across the stomach to start. Tape down a sheet of your pattern paper, and the first thing we're going to do is create a rectangle on our paper using 2 measurements. It's going to be the back length and the side depth. Now for my demonstration, I'm going to be using my own measurements from my dog, but you definitely want to substitute your own measurements that you get from yours. So I'm going to be creating a rectangle that's 22 inches by 9 inches. Take your neck circumference measurement and divide this in half. Here's the original box that I drafted. So for my case, it's 9 by 22 inches. You're going to take one side, that's the measurement for the back length, so right here on the 22 inches, and I'm going to extend this line, my measurement that I got when I divided my neck circumference in half. So this line right here is going to get extended by 8 inches in my case. You're going to take what you have for your chest depth. In my case, it's only 4 inches. And at the end of this point, you're going to square a line, so it's going to be straight across. So for me, it's going to be 4 inches, and then from this end point, I'm going to bring it back to my larger box. You're going to end up with a rectangle over on this side, and this is what's going to be plotting our main points for the strap that goes across the front of the dog. Next, I'm going to be plotting my neckline. So I'm going to be dealing with this area right here. So from this point, I'm going to go up about 1 inch, and I'm just going to make a mark on my line. Now I'm doing it for a very large dog. If you're doing it for a smaller dog, you can make it less than 1 inch, maybe do a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch. You just want to go in a little bit because we want to end this on a straight line. So that's why I'm going in. I'm going to measure from this point to this point, divide it in half, and I'm going to mark the center of that. Next, you want to draw a smooth curve from this point to this point. And I'm going to go ahead and do this with a French curve ruler just because it's a little bit easier for me. So I'm just going to draw a smooth line with this ruler, but I'm going to kind of blend it in so I don't have any angles and it kind of ends in a straight line for here and for here. If you don't have a French curve ruler, you can just kind of eyeball it. Take your flexible tape measure and measure the length of our new neckline. So from this point along the curve and then up here, compare it to half of your neck circumference. So I'd compare it to 8 inches. You should find that this line is actually longer than whatever that number is for you. So what you can do is erase this top line and adjust it so you're going a little bit lower. So if 8 was here, I can draw my line here. I recommend, instead of doing the exact number, adding an inch or so, just so you have overlap for your front flaps. So let's say instead of 8 inches, I'm going to measure till I hit 9 inches and then draw my new line here, and I can go ahead and erase this part here. I'm going to shape the end of my strap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this width, I'm going to divide it in half and make a mark. Then on each side of this line, I'm going to go down 1 inch, make a mark, go down 1 inch, make a mark. I can go ahead and grab my French curve again, and I'm going to draw a curved line, basically going from my 1 inch here to the center and to the 1 inch on this side. When you finish shaping the end of your strap, it's going to look something like this, and if you did this in pencil, you can go ahead and erase these corner lines right here. Now we're going to move on to drafting the chest straps. So you need to have your chest circumference, and you're going to take this number, you're going to divide it in half, and then you're going to subtract your side depth, because remember, we already have part of the coat, the side part of it anyways, taken care of. So we're just subtracting that to see how much leftover we need in order to do our straps. So I'm going to take 14, I'm going to minus 9 inches, and that's going to give me 5 inches. From this point, you're going to measure over whatever your neck to strap edge is. So in my case, it's 3 inches. So I'm going to measure 3 inches, plus I'm going to add another ½ inch, and I'm going to make a mark. Now I'm adding the ½ inch because when I start shaping the strap, it's going to cut into it a little bit and it's going to bring it back to my 3 inch mark. So that's why to whatever your number is here, just add a ½ inch. I'm going to extend a line at this mark. So it's going to be a squared line, and the length of it is going to be the same length as this number here plus 1 inch. And I'm adding that 1 inch for overlap for the straps. At this point, you need to decide how wide you want the strap going across the chest to be. It really depends on how big your dog is. I have a fairly large dog, so I'm going to do mine 5 inches. So from the top of this line, I'm going to square another line, straight line going this way. I'm just going to pick 5 inches, and then from this end, I'm going to go ahead and bring it back to this line. So you'll end up with another rectangle over here. Just like I did with my front strap, I'm also going to shape the chest strap as well. So I'm marking the middle, then I'm going 1 inch on each side, and I'm drawing a curve. And then I'm also doing it right here because I don't want any sharp angles. It just makes it harder to put the bias tape on it. So I went a ½ inch this way, a ½ inch that way, did a small curve, and then did the same thing on this side. Lastly, I just need to shape the back of the dog coat. Now my pattern is upside down for this demonstration. So this is for the spine of the dog, and then here we have basically the bottom and then the bottom strap that goes along the chest. What I'm going to do is, now I'm working at the opposite end of where the chest strap is. We still have a squared end here. I'm going to measure whatever this length is, and it should be the same of whatever your side depth is. So for me, that's 9 inches. And on this line, I'm going to measure over 9 inches, and I'm going to make a mark. Then I'm going to draw a smooth curve, and since it's bigger than my French curve, I'm just going to eyeball it. Smooth curve up to this point. I wouldn't stop your curve directly in the corner, but maybe like a ½ inch away from the corner, because we always want to end sort of on a straight line. Here's what my final curve looks like for the back of the dog coat. Here you can see the final outline of my pattern. Now I flipped it around, so now it's right side up. I have the center back here. This is the bottom of the coat with the chest strap, the front strap, and the neckline. You'll notice I have these lines right here with circles. This is for the hook and loop fastener marking, so we know where to place it when we're putting our coat together. For this one, I just placed it in the center and did at least a ½ inch away from this edge here. Now the length is really up to you. I would say between 1 to 3 inches. I think I did mine 2 inches in length. Since this is a wider strap here, I went ahead and did 2 of them. They're both 2 inches in length, and again, I went at least a ½ inch in, and I did about 2 inches in on each side for this one, but this is because my strap is so wide. I do a longer strip of the hook and loop fastener just so it's a little bit more adjustable. Then all I have to do is go ahead and put my information on it. This side is going to be placed on a fold, so then when we open it up, we end up with a piece that's twice as big as this. It's our dog coat. Again, we're going to be cutting one on the fold. Now if this is your first time making this pattern, you may want to try it with just some cheap muslin fabric, cut it out, place it in a dog, and see if you need to make any adjustments. I know it's hard to take a dog's measurements since they tend to wiggle around a lot. So getting accurate measurements is really hard, and you may need to make little adjustments, maybe shortening this a little bit or moving this over a little bit. So you want to do that before you cut it out in more expensive fabric. After you perfect your pattern, you're then going to want to use it to cut out a piece in your fleece, and I've already done that here, and you can see my fleece is actually two-sided, so it's sort of reversible. Now if you want to do something similar but you can't find a fleece like mine, you can actually use 2 different fleeces. So you're going to use your pattern to cut one out of each, and then you're going to lay them on top of each other, wrong side to wrong side, and just baste around the perimeter of the whole piece. So then you're actually dealing with the piece as a single entity moving forward. Make sure that you transfer your marks for your hook and loop fasteners onto your project because we're going to be doing that part next. So I'm going to show you how to do this for the neck straps, but you'll be doing the exact same thing for the chest straps as well. So I have my hook and loop fastener here, just a couple of inches in length, and I have the rough side and the soft side. For the first one that I'm doing over here, you can see my line right here. I'm going to center it on my mark and I'm going to pin it into place. Now for the one that goes with it, here's the other side of that neck strap. I'm going to place this one now on the wrong side. This is because when I actually put this on my dog and I put this together with the fastener, these are going to overlap and it just makes it a lot easier. I'm using a regular straight stitch just to sew around the perimeter of each hook and loop fastener. And when I get to the corner, I put my needle down, lift my foot, and that way I'm able to pivot and go in a different direction. And I'm using a little bit of a heavier needle just to get through the hook and loop since it is a little bit stiffer than normal fabric, so I'm using a denim needle for this part. Next, I'm going to be attaching my bias tape to my coat. And I'm going to do a little bit of prep work. Now if you're doing a smaller coat and you're only using one package of bias tape, you can just skip this part because you don't need to do it. But for those of us doing a large coat where we need 2 or more packages of bias tape, we need to attach them all together before we start pinning them to our coat. It's just easier to do it now than to worry about it later. So I have 2 packages up here and I'm going to be attaching the ends so I end up with one long piece of bias tape. So when it's folded up, you're looking at the right side of the bias tape. I'm going to unfold one end of one package and lay it right side up. Now the right side of the bias tape is showing because all the creases you can see are popping up. Then I'm going to take this other one and also open it up, and I can lightly press this if I need to. And I'm going to place it right side to right side, but at a 90-degree angle. So this one's going up this way, this one's going to go in the opposite direction, and I'm going to line up the edges here and here. Now you'll notice I have a free angle here, so I'm going to go to either this side or this side. It doesn't really matter, but these 2 corners are the corners that I'm going to sew at a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to pin this, and you can't see this corner because this is overlapping it, but you just need to make note of it. So it's about right here, and I'm going to take it to my machine, start here at this corner, sew across in a straight line until I get to this corner. So I'm just doing a regular straight stitch. You can see I use my fabric marker to draw a light line. So I'm just kind of using that as my guideline so I make sure I go straight. And don't forget to back stitch on the beginning and end. Next I'm going to trim off this free corner here. So I'm leaving 1/4 of an inch past my stitches. So you just need to leave a little bit. Get rid of that. And now if I open this up, I can go ahead, refold my bias tape, and now it's just a single line of bias tape, and I can go ahead and start pinning it to my project. All right, so we're ready to start pinning our bias tape to our coat. I have this wrong side facing up. I'm going to bring in one end of bias tape here, and I'm going to unfold it so I'm looking at the wrong side. I'm going to take this end, I'm going to fold it, let's say fold it about 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to start placing it on the edge, again the edge of the wrong side, and I'm going to just start pinning it into place, just worried about making sure these raw edges are matched up. Now because there is some curve to this, bias tape does have a little bit of stretch to it, a little bit of give, so when I'm working with a curve, I just do a little bit at a time, so I actually use a lot more pins in the curvy areas. And if you need to, you can just do a little bit, stretch it just a little bit, and then you can go ahead and pin it. Then I have the next curve, I just stretch it a little bit, and then I pin it. With the bigger curves, it's really not so much of a big deal. You just want to make sure that for the most part, it's pretty much lying flat, just like this. When I make it all the way back around to the starting point, you're just going to take the edge. You don't have to fold this edge at all. It was just this first edge, and you can go ahead, just overlap it by 1/2 inch again and go ahead and pin it into place. We're then going to take it to our sewing machine, and we're going to do a seam or a stitch right in the middle of this top crease here all the way around. I'm going to do a regular length straight stitch right inside that crease there. When you're going around curves, you may want to take it a little bit slower. Flip your coat over to the right side, and then you're going to take your bias tape, which is stitched to the wrong side, you're going to fold it out, refold it over, so that the folded edge of the bias tape should meet with your stitch line that you did previously, and you're going to pin this all into place so then we can stitch right along this edge here. The last stitch is the top stitch, and I'm doing the top stitch just doing a regular straight stitch, looking at the right side, or what I would be consider the right side of my dog coat, and my stitching line is about 1/8 of an inch away from this raw edge of the bias tape, and I'm just going to do this all the way around until the bias tape is attached to the front. With that, your coat is done and ready for your dog. You can see that the pattern is the most time-consuming part, but once that's out of the way, the actual assembly is really easy. Because we have no seams in this, don't forget that you can make it reversible. Good luck in making your own dog coat. New tutorials are released weekly, so please subscribe to be notified of the next release. Make sure to check out our other videos and visit ProfessorPincushion.com to view our complete library with well over 200 sewing video tutorials, including our exclusive premium content. Our premium membership is only $5 a month for unlimited access and only available at ProfessorPincushion.com. Also, don't forget to download our mobile app for videos on the go. Thanks for watching.